Jeannie, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for... Everything sounds okay? Yeah? I'll just take my notes. Sorry, Guinea. Thank you. Perfect. I was going to stand, but I think I'm going to sit because everything is here in front of me, if that's okay with everyone. So yes, firstly, my name is Deirdre. It's one of those really weird Irish names, O'Loughlin, but you can call me Dee. Dee. It's simple, yeah. And so I'd like to thank particularly Mary Jose and Eugenia for inviting me here to your wonderful Faculty of Business and Economics. I'm really flattered to be here. It's been a wonderful experience so far. And while the weather in Ireland is not as good as the weather in Spain, I can see lots of similarities between the people of Ireland and Spanish people, just so warm and so friendly. So thank you again for having me. I'm going to speak to you today about this topic, hopefully in a way that you can understand me, because I am conscious that it's English and your native language is Spanish. So I'm going to speak slowly and hopefully clearly so that you can get the value from this presentation. I'm going to speak about two things: sustainability, which is a huge topic, massive global challenge. And I'm also going to speak about this idea of the world being very precarious. That means risky, uncertain. There's lots of things happening in the world that are really quite worrying, quite concerning. We don't know what the future holds for us. So it's now really important to have this focus on sustainability so that we can have a future that is somewhat safe and somewhat certain. Just in terms of my background and the University of Limerick, so this is maybe that doesn't work. University of Limerick is in Ireland. We are in the west of Ireland, beautiful part of the world, a bit like Asturias. We are a really responsible business school, really sustainable business school. We're only 50 years old as a university. We're really young, 50, younger than me, right? And we have 3 accreditations, EQUIS, AMBA and AACSB, and congratulations to Oviedo for getting, the business school for getting AACSB recently. That's an excellent accreditation. Well done. But we're also really interested in equality in the University of Limerick and in our business school. We have the Athena Swan Silver Medal. That's about women and men having equal opportunity, right? So that's really important in terms of sustainability as well. And then we're also a champion of the Principles for Responsible Management Education, which is another big group of responsibility, sustainability type academic institutions, right? So we're very interested in sustainability. Some photos of our university. You can see the campus there. Just really nice buildings. It's very green. It's really pretty. You must come and visit us. It's a really beautiful campus, a really lovely university. And then the city of Limerick, like lots of places in Ireland, has lots of castles, right? So lots of beautiful scenery to look at. Okay, so let's get going. This is a photo of me and my family. Again, it's just to give you some personal background. This is my husband who earned his PhD, his doctorate, just before the pandemic, 4 years ago. And I have 2 daughters, 17 and almost 14 now. They were a bit younger in that photo. So we're a really normal family, right? Just like you guys. But we have, I suppose, lots of interesting stories to tell. So just to give some background on myself, I am a normal person who has a normal life outside of academia as well. As Guinea said, I have a background that spans lots of different universities. I have a real interest in language exchange and culture. I studied a BA in International Marketing and Languages many years ago, 30 years ago. And I was really focused on 2 languages, French and German, and obviously my own native language, English. So I have a real interest in international exchange and culture. I then went on to do a master's and then a PhD at the University of Birmingham in England. And that's quite usual for Irish academics to go and have an PhD doctorate training in another country. It's really important to have that kind of international experience. I am really interested in teaching. I love students. I love research too, but I really love teaching. And so I have a real interest in being an excellent teacher, and I've tried to really perfect that over the years. But I've also worked professionally. So I worked before I became a university professor in a number of different companies in the food sector, And then I suppose I worked in DCU, UCC, and now the University of Limerick. So I'm a long time doing this job, actually, 27 years nearly. But I've also worked in other places besides Ireland, if you like. I have had visiting professorships at Birmingham, the University of Birmingham in the UK, Finland, Greece, and France. And I'm hoping that the links with Oviedo and this wonderful faculty will also strengthen. In terms of my positions, maybe important for you as students to see a progression. I was lecturer, then senior lecturer, assistant dean, and then associate professor. So bit by bit, if you work hard, you'll progress. It's the same everywhere, no matter what sector you work in. Okay. Does everybody understand me? Is it all okay? Excellent. Okay, let's go. So, a very brief background to sustainability. You know all about it, right? We know about sustainability and the worries and what it brings. But I'm going to show some clips, some videos to give a little bit of a taste, a bit of animation, a bit of engagement, enthusiasm for the topic before I talk to you about the cases or the examples that I think are really important that come from my own background. So this is An Inconvenient Truth. It was launched as a movie in 2004, almost 20 years ago. It won a Golden Globe Award, like the Oscars at the time. And it is probably one of the first movies made in Hollywood to try and make people aware 20 years ago how serious this problem was. I'm not going to show you that movie, it's just to give you the sense of the history of how long this problem has been going on. But I will show you a little short video about climate change, which I think you'll find interesting. And we'll just watch a couple of minutes of it first, just to give us a sense of why this is all important. Ooh, sorry.
Right now, we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale, our greatest threat in thousands of years, climate change. If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. The world's people have spoken. Their message is clear. Time is running out.
The amount of...
Okay, so we know time is running out, right? There's a real need to act now. And it isn't just a case of it being really important now, but if we don't act in our generation, as in this immediate generation, it's not going to be feasible for the future generations to survive. It's absolutely immediately important. Okay, so let's just again look at some context. The United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals, you've probably heard about them. We all know about them, but they have defined sustainability. Again, look at the date, 1987, right? For over 40 years ago now, this has been seen as, flagged as a really serious issue. And the most important thing when I talk to my students about sustainability is this notion of future generations. We have to act now for our children, for our children's children. If not now, it'll never be fixed, right? So that's what they were saying 40 years ago. So now in 2023, it's even more of a problem because we haven't acted since then, really, not properly. So there's a fantastic movement around sustainability, as you know. The United Nations is involved in it. Has much been done? Has it been enough? Arguably not. Even though 140 countries are involved, it's still not enough. So we need to really consider how we're going to properly, really totally address this issue. So these goals, you know, devised a number of years ago, all talk about different things, and they allow us to focus on things like climate change or climate action, food, the ocean, responsible consumption and production, which is really relevant for us in the business school, right? But ultimately, have they been really effective? Not really. They're in principle excellent, but they haven't really been successful in terms of practical implications. So climate action is one of the most important ones for right now in terms of sustainability. You know, our business school, which I'll talk to you a little bit about in a few minutes, like every other business school, like every university, like every company has the word climate change or climate action in its strategic plan. So unless we solve the climate crisis, we're not going to solve anything else around the natural environment, around our production or consumption, or any of these issues that are more at that societal end. So all these goals and targets, we have probably failed again and again and again to meet, right? So there's a real issue around that climate change. There's a real, what they call code red warning, like an emergency, right? This is the really interesting thing for us, which I'll be focusing my talk on, sustainable consumption and production, and they're always together. Because unless you talk about the production and consumption being circular, one is going to lead to waste and to basically an exacerbation or increase in those problems. So we need to really focus on this being a circular, sustainable, combined, integrated effort of consumption and production. And again, it's unsustainable. So let's go on to look at sustainable consumption and production. And I don't know if you can read that little caricature, those little cartoons, but it says, our way of life is being threatened by a dark force. We must defend our way of life. What is this dark force which threatens our way of life? It's our way of life. In other words, we're the problem. We are the dark force ourselves, right? And of course, you know Greta Thunberg. You've heard of her? Yeah? Have you seen her speaking? How she's this symbol of youth, your age group, telling us, older people, you have done this to us. You have made this world a bad place. There's a video there of her on these slides, which of course you can share with the students. She's talking about fairy tales and economic progress. And she said, you have taken away my childhood. Very, very sad story, very sad thoughts that this young person had to come in front of the United Nations Global Impact Summit and tell older people, you have stripped my childhood away. Okay, so she's a very important symbol of your generation, telling the older generation how bad they have been. Okay, let's look at sustainable consumption. I don't know if you know that film, Confessions of a Shopaholic. You should watch it. It's very funny. It's a great movie. But it's about people like this girl shopping too much, buying too many things, having so many clothes that she doesn't even know what she owns, getting into all kinds of debt and, you know, being really in trouble financially. So this is about sustainable consumption and a better quality of life, minimizing the use of natural resources, materials, waste, pollutants, and not to jeopardize, again, the needs of future generations. So back to this idea of we need to consider it now for the future, right? What we do now will impact the future. Why is that important? It's because there's a whole movement towards sustainability. And this is not just commercial, this is not just business, it's not just consumption and production. This is everything in the world must consider now every move they make. And this movement, this absolute focus on sustainability needs to be there in order for change to happen. How is that going to happen? It's only going to happen if we care, if we feel connected, right? If we feel emotionally and socially responsible. So when you wake up in the morning and you think about what you're consuming, we all have a shower, we all, you know, make food, we use, you know, energy, we dispose of whatever we've consumed. Do we think about the impact on the future? No, because we're in that moment and it's all about us as individuals. We need to think about us connected. We need to be part of a bigger community and we need to care about this. So as an example of how, I suppose, we care, higher education, your environment here at Oviedo, my environment in Limerick in Ireland, and every other higher education institution has a real opportunity to make a change. And you're part of a group of people who all know each other. You're connected to each other through your studies. But there's a real opportunity to be involved, to be responsible. And I wanted to show you in particular how higher education is leading this transition towards sustainability. Not just part of it, leading it. They're stewards of it. They're champions of it. That they take these grand challenges and they really start to create ambitious goals to change the world as we know it. So I wanted to show you in particular my university as a beginning, the University of Limerick, where they say sustainability is at the heart of everything we do. That's core to their strategy. They are absolutely committed to being a sustainable university. Remember, it's only 50 years old, so it's very young. And they have championed sustainability and developed a sustainability framework, which I am working on. So I want to show you a short movie, a short clip of their sustainability framework. So let's quickly look. Sorry now. There's this one. That's Greta, of course. We know Greta. Here we go. So this is the sustainability framework. I'm going to show you that in just a couple of minutes. Let me show you the actual clip of UL at 50, past, present, future. You'll also see some images of the university as well as obviously our commitment to sustainability.
We've always been good at beginnings, and beginnings are about questions. Questions of rights and responsibility, of intentions and identity, of people and place. And some questions don't have easy answers. What do we value? Who do we serve? How do we measure the impact of our actions? We've lived these questions for half a century, a flicker in the greater story, but enough to become a home of firsts. The first university of an independent nation. The first in Ireland to offer cooperative education. Ireland's first female university president. Each first setting the stage for countless milestones to come. Yet we know the most important firsts aren't ours. A first home away from home. A first paper published. A first step into adulthood. A first job. Along the way we've found answers and we've built foundations. Foundations we'll rely on for the journey ahead, because as we reach this milestone, facing unprecedented challenges, once again it's a time of beginnings, and we're asking ourselves some questions. How can we protect, regenerate, and steward this place we live in? How can we be catalysts in realising a just and fair society for all? What if we pointed the hearts, heads and hands of 20,000 people at these challenges? What happens if we don't?
Our objective is to apply knowledge.
We demanded a university founded on the idea of wisdom for action. Now we must ask, what does that demand from us? There are no perfect answers, but we have 50 years of experience to guide us forward. What if our campus grew as a place that tackles complex global challenges, working towards collective missions with our local community to role model the impact we all need to make? And what if sustainability was at the heart of everything we do, from the way we teach to what inspires our research, and we tracked our efforts with real-time data to measure our impact? And what if our community continued to grow, creating the environments we need to come together and envision the future of the place we call home? And who better to ask these questions? We know this place, and we know our place. We are University of Limerick, and we've always been good at beginnings.
Okay. So, a nice glossy movie, fun to watch for a few minutes, but what does it actually mean? Okay, so let's look at the framework. And you're very welcome to look at it yourselves afterwards and see what you can learn from this. But basically they have produced a really detailed framework, 60-something pages, of specific goals around what the university can do. So the detail is here in this PDF document on their sustainability framework. website. And it is obviously all about their missions, the challenges, the detail is all there. As you can see, the timelines, etc. Ultimately, what they're saying is there are all these wicked problems. I don't know if you've heard that expression, wicked. Wicked is like bad magic. It's like really black magic. Wicked is something that is hard to fix, that's elusive, that's challenging. And sustainability is a wicked problem. Okay? And then they talk about all the missions that are going to be devised to help avoid that wicked problem. So what they have decided on is that as a university, see the detail there, I'll show you the slides in just a minute, it's all about a four-pronged approach, four things happening together. So this is where you come in. Research and students, you have a huge role to play. So teaching and curriculum has to change. The way we research has to change with a huge focus on sustainability. There needs to be also a real sense of governance and leadership. So having a reliance on faculty and students isn't enough. We need to have also the university executive, the provost, all the deans, everybody who's governing the university also involved. Thirdly, you need to have a community and cooperation on campus. The entire campus has to work together in a tangible way, all integrated, to help produce these solutions to the grand challenge of sustainability. And finally, you have to partner with lots of people outside in society and the local community. So 4 different people, if you like, or sets of people working together. And what they did then, again, I'll show you the slides in just a couple of minutes, but here are the details. There are 4 main areas that they're going to focus on. Governance, the economy, society, and the planet. And under each of them, they've got many different missions. Each one making a change so that by 2030 in the University of Limerick, it would be truly a sustainable campus, right? So very, very big commitments there to what the University of Limerick wants to do, and they are fully engaged with it. So again, just to show some of the maybe better visible detail on this, there are the 4 organizations, again, working towards the Sustainable Development Goals. And equally, there are the 4 sets of missions involved in stewarding that transition, making the world a better place, thriving with local communities, and being what we call resilient. Very specific goals around making the university a more of a sustainable organization. And what do we mean under each of these missions? I'm just going to give you some detail, just some examples of what they mean. So under the transition, stewarding the transition, they're going to have a mission lab, this idea of a laboratory that will have the community involved in actually making these changes happen. They're going to have digital twins. They're going to have technology and AI involved in actually emulating change so that we can really measure the impact of what we're doing. In terms of the economy, they're going to be involved with inviting alumni, people who were past pupils of the university, in to help with these sustainability challenges, and having circular production and consumption. In terms of the society and thriving communities, it's going to be also about making sure the campus is more physically mobile and accessible for everybody of all abilities. So it's not just for the able-bodied, but also people who have mobility needs. Having an agri-campus. You saw in the video some beekeeping, right? They have bees on campus. They have an environmental committee running a garden with vegetables growing. So creating sustainability within the campus itself. And then obviously, like many companies, we're looking for carbon neutrality by 2030, carbon neutral status. Very difficult to do, right? As well as having a biodiverse campus and revitalise the River Shannon. The University of Limerick is on a beautiful river with thousands of hectares of land. It's about really making this the best practice university can be in terms of sustainability. So that's our commitment as a university. And if everybody thinks that way within their own university, their own company, their own home, their own community, then the world can truly change, right? It just takes individual and collective commitment. Okay. One other example from the University of Limerick, and this is one of the PhD students that I work with. I don't supervise her, but I have been involved in if you like, supporting her. She just won the University of Limerick Sustainability Challenge. She's from Uganda in Africa. She works with local farmers in her home country to ensure that their knowledge sharing and their practices are sustainable. And she is all about this idea of diminishing or reducing environmental destruction and having these partnerships where there is real true exchange of knowledge between those farmers in Uganda. And so that truly it's an example of sustainability. And she's just a fantastic student who has done super work that's really impactful and very simple, but has really championed that cause. And she won the challenge, which is a competition that was run by the University of Limerick. Okay, let's look at the second case, companies or corporations. This is often where we give bad examples. I do an exercise with my students where I say, okay, we're talking about corporate social responsibility today. Let's do a big list of the companies that are bad and a list of the companies that are good. Which list is longer? The bad. And then we start to think about it and we think, well, actually, maybe there are lots of companies that are in the middle. They're trying to be good. They were bad. They sometimes still do bad things, but they're reasonably helping themselves towards being better. They're trying to be good. And now more than ever, doing well, in other words, being a good corporation, is making more profit. So there's more of an incentive now to be sustainable, to be responsible, to be thinking about the future. So let's look at some examples. This is an expression, of course, what's the new color, what's on trend? Green means sustainable is the new black. In English, if it's the new black, that means it's the new color, it's the new trend. So being green is now trendy, it's now fashionable. And that's why you see lots of companies with sustainability frameworks, just like the University of Limerick. They have corporate social responsibility strategies. They are truly committed to sustainability, at least on their websites they are. Yeah, but are they really? Some are, as we know, some are not, and some are in the middle. Many are in the middle. But here are some examples of companies that have been doing this for a long time. The Body Shop, you probably know The Body Shop, right? Does anybody now know who owns The Body Shop? It's no longer a private company. It's owned by L'Oreal. So L'Oreal is not necessarily the most sustainable company, as we know, but it owns a beautifully sustainable, responsible, small company within its portfolio. That's a good thing. Hopefully it will make L'Oreal more sustainable right across all of its other products. Yeah. Nike, another example of a company that would have been really, what's the word? Oh, you know, committing offenses in terms of its ethical or non-sustainable supply chain, using potentially slave labor, sweatshops over the years. Now it's all about the move to zero. And if you go to their website, they have the most amazing strategy around recycling, repurposing, and creating this absolute circular consumption and production. What a fantastic example of a company that has turned itself around fully and completely. Okay? So we're gaining ground. Companies are getting better. And there's lots of other examples of companies that are facilitating a more circular, more sustainable way of doing business. So whether it's, you know, second-hand clothes, as they call it, loving your clothes. One of the UK companies is called WRAP. It's a charity that allows people to swap and exchange clothes. Or home exchange, where rather than paying for accommodation anew or buying a second home necessarily, you can swap. You can swap everything with a family in a different country. We have done that ourselves quite a lot over the years in different countries. It's a lovely way to swap and exchange. And then there's this idea of second-hand, vintage, previously loved, that is becoming the new fashion. That eco-clothing, for example, is the most sustainable but also the most trendy way to shop. And many companies like Oxfam and charities are celebrating this idea of old being beautiful, vintage being, again, fashionable. So this movement by companies to facilitate more sustainable ways of practicing. This is an interesting video that I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes of the power of these charity or organizations. We talked about Oxfam there, WRAP. You've probably heard of Greenpeace. Greenpeace? Yeah. International organization that has championed change, tried to fight against the big bad corporations to get them to change their ways. So Shell, big oil company, Shell, was drilling in the Arctic, drilling for oil, drilling, destroying essentially the beauty of the Arctic Circle. And Greenpeace decided, we don't want that to happen, we're going to stop it. So Greenpeace created this amazing movie called Everything is Not Awesome. It's based on the song Everything is Awesome, which is a fun song. This is about everything is not awesome. And they basically used Lego. Who'd have thought Lego is connected to Shell? What has Lego got to do with Shell? So Lego makes toys. Does anybody know what Lego is made from? Plastic, which comes from? Excellent. So what better example was to use Lego as a company that needs oil, or used to need oil, to make its products, and to create this world about the Arctic Circle and the bad work that Shell was doing in the Arctic. So let me show you the movie to give you a sense of what they did. Yeah, that's 50. So the caption there was, tell Lego to end its partnership with Shell. Complicated message, but of course Lego uses plastic, which comes from Shell. And they used Lego to create a whole world that was being destroyed by Shell. And they petitioned. They got loads of people to sign these electronic petitions to stop the drilling. And guess what? Did they stop it? They did, which is great. You can see there that Lego is making sustainable, eco-friendly blocks made of sugar cane, not plastic. And you can't see on the left-hand side, but that is an email from Greenpeace to me, among millions of other people who are members, to say, thank you for signing this petition. Because of signing this petition, Shell has stopped drilling in the Arctic. So that's to show the power of two things. People, normal people, everyone like us, have all got an individual collective power. And then these huge charities like Greenpeace that are really professional and are able to fight back against the big corporations. So that's a very good positive sign of hope for the future. How do we recognize good companies? A couple of things. There are lots of rankings now. Okay, so you've got an AACSB, we've got Equus and AMBA, but companies can also certify their sustainability, their ethical, responsible position. And one is called B Corp. It's an American accreditation. So this is about really being responsible and sustainable. And if you're a B Corp company, you really have that accreditation. The same as Ethisphere, the same as corporate citizenship. They're all part of this movement by companies to become better. And what better example than Patagonia? You've heard of Patagonia? Amazing case study of a company that has, from the very beginning, through their CEO, Ivan Shunyar, he's an American guy, who has really championed sustainability from the very beginning. So much so that his multi-billion corporation, he has given away to charity to literally use every cent it makes in helping to fight climate change. That's a true sign of a B Corp company, right? So you should look at that as a case and learn from what they have done. It's a fantastic example. There are other examples that are maybe not quite as large, maybe not quite as perfect in their positioning, but are really multi-award winning companies. Accenture is an Irish consulting company. They're a business consulting company, and they have won every award there is to do with responsibility and ethical. But they're also incredibly successful from a profit point of view. They're ranked really high on Interbrand as a very valuable brand. So they have actually done both. They're doing well from a profit point of view, but they're also doing good from a responsibility point of view. And arguably, it's both together that really matter. You can't long-term do well without doing good, essentially. So that's one of the best places to work in Ireland and abroad, Accenture. Tom's, you've heard of them? They're an American company that makes shoes. The idea was if you buy a pair of shoes, they give the value of that pair of shoes to charity. Now it's about wearing good, all about social impact. They have an impact brand manager. I just wanted to show you this, in fact, from their website. And this shows the advantage of this responsibility being very much part of so that's B Corp. Tom's, we're in business to improve lives. So that's kind of that idea of doing well while doing good. They're in business to make money, but they're also improving lives. That's a really clever dual positioning, right? And equally, they also have a chief brand and impact manager. So not only do they have a brand manager anymore, they have a brand and impact. And impact is all about responsibility, change and improvement, right? So they're, again, combining both responsibilities of both roles into one. Purpose, planet, people, 3 Ps, of course. So really a great example of a company that is doing well while doing good. Other examples that would be of interest that are both charities and commercial organizations. Again, it isn't just commercial, it's also charities like Amnesty, like Fair Trade, like the Y Inspiring Women, Oxfam, and so forth. So it just shows you that even, and this is an example of a lot of English companies, that even in that in that list or in that selection, there's a combination of both charities, civil society organizations, and commercial organizations. Lush, of course, cosmetics, might have heard of them. The Cooperative Bank, also really well known. Médecins Sans Frontières, you know, all these charities that are really doing great work. Okay, third context, we're nearly there. This brings me to my own specific area of research that I've been working with for many, many years. How do we enable consumers to spend? We allow them to borrow money, right? So as students, you can obviously have a credit card, can have an overdraft, your parents can have a loan for a house, or what we call a mortgage. And nowadays online, there's more and more opportunity to avail of online credit. Revolut, Klarna, where you can buy now, pay later. All sounds fantastic. It's not good because it's not sustainable. So let's look at some of the issues. We're living in this world of precarity. We talked about that at the very beginning. It's a precarious world. It's uncertain, it's insecure. A lot of the work I've done with Guinea here has been on austerity. We've lived with austerity, guys, as you know, in Spain very well since 2008. The same with Ireland. 15 years now of dealing with the impact of that recession that killed us back then. So it's a very tough world we're living in. And there's a lot of insecurity there. And that has really impacted us as consumers as well. And that's why we want to spend and enjoy life a bit, because it's been tough, it's been hard, right? Now, more recently, we've got the Ukrainian crisis, the cost of living crisis, COVID, post-pandemic issues. It's a tough world for you guys, particularly very young people with the whole uncertainty of the future on your mind all the time. And in the media, you turn on the TV, it's something or other that's a crisis. The word crisis is everywhere. It's ongoing. So it's really important that we all learn to live and adapt and become resilient while also making responsible decisions. And the problem with it is that the banks and these online companies, these online non-banking companies, by the way, they're not banks, they're online offerings, are making money very accessible. That's seen as free money. It's not free. If you default on a buy now, pay later scheme, your credit rating is destroyed for the rest of your life, really. And young people don't know that. So the unsustainable lending and consumer credit and debt is a big issue. So while companies are doing well, civil organizations are helping, we as consumers are under much more pressure than ever before to avoid these precarious credit offerings. And we need to be really careful. So ultimately what we've been working on, myself and Guinea and on other families or other researchers, is how to somehow avoid that, how to understand how we navigate that really precarious world of credit and debt and unregulated offerings. And one of the projects that I'm particularly interested in now is understanding financial insecurity among people across all backgrounds to see how that can be protected into the future. Guinea mentioned that we are having a number of publications this year. One of these publications is a book that I've edited with colleagues in the UK, which Jeannie and I have a chapter in, which is all about this idea of austerity, poverty, not poverty for poor people, poverty for everyone. People who are like you and me, everyday consumers who have ended up being poor because we have not enough money to help us sustain our lives. So we looked at resilience as one of the chapters in that book. And we've also another book on ethical consumption, looking at unsustainable credit and debt offerings. So there's a lot of research going on around this area of financial insecurity and unsustainability in terms of the financial context. Ultimately, this financial insecurity that you're growing up with, that I have been researching for 20 years now, is here for the long term. So we can't necessarily change it, but we have to know how to manage it and be really careful about financial decisions, very careful, because it can live with you forever. So what can we do as consumers? This is the last part of the speech. What can we do? Well, we can do nothing and just hope it all goes away. Or we can be very proactive and positive and somehow responsible and still enjoy life and have a life, if you like, look forward to the future. Firstly, did you know, as one of my daughters says the whole time, did you know, Mom? Did you know that it's our right? It's actually our right and responsibility to have an eco-friendly environment. It is our right to have and to enjoy a healthy and sustainable environment. It's our right and responsibility to be socially concerned and to strive for a healthy environment. It isn't just something we are kind of interested in. We have rights and responsibilities around them. Right? So that's really important to know. It's ingrained, it's fundamentally important to be responsible. So therefore, as a consumer, we can be truly ethical and truly responsible. We need to start, though, with information and awareness and knowledge, because that gives us power. Once we've got power, we can make good decisions. This is one of the very best publications I would advise you to subscribe to. It's called The Ethical Consumer. It's a UK online magazine. You can subscribe for free and you have access to fantastic information about being an ethical consumer and what companies to shop from, which ones are the most ethical, most responsible, what boycotting is going on, what campaigns are running. All you need to know is there. It's really superb. I'm not going to show you this clip, but this is a speech I gave back in 2019 about being ethically responsible, being consumer responsible, and ultimately developing resilience. So it's a talk that I gave around that. How do we as consumers become more resilient? That's a really important question. How do we answer that? So this is something I've been grappling with for a long time, and it's not an easy answer, but we need to at least be motivated to try. So do check out that link when you can. We can also vote 2 ways with our wallet. It's talking about voting with our money. So we can sign petitions, we can boycott the bad companies, and we can boycott the good companies. Does anybody know what BUY means? Boycotting. BUY-cotting. To boycott. Does anybody know what that means? What does it mean? It's the same in Spanish. So you're buying from them actively, as opposed to avoiding the bad ones. You're buying from the good ones. You're supporting the good ones. Because you're lending your custom to them. You're supporting them. You're saying, I admire you. You and I are the same. We have the same values. You're my company and I'm your consumer. I want to be friends with you. I want to buy from you. That's a really important thing to do. We can shop ethically and responsibly, locally, markets, local people, not getting from the big supermarkets from across the world. Buy from your neighbours, swap, exchange. Again, the same things we spoke about already. Support local. We can also support fair trade. Fair trade is a really lovely brand that, again, like an accreditation, gives a mark of distinction to those products that are being sourced locally or sourced from companies where there's a living wage, a proper set of conditions for those people who are producing fair trade. And you can see there from the statistics, it's growing all the time. From a very low base, loads and loads of products, lots of countries, and lots of revenue being generated from fair trade. Tourism, that's another way we can also do good, if you like, as consumers. So watch where you go on holidays. Go over places where there's minimum, as it says, maximum experience and minimum impact. As an example of travel responsibly. Or one that's very close to home. I'm going to show you that website in just a couple of minutes. I'm a member of the Cliffs of Moher Board of Directors. And that is they're the biggest cliffs in Europe, but it is also a UN or UNESCO global geopark with huge amount of sustainability. So just let me show you that very quickly as an example of a tourism organization that is doing really well. There's the minimum impact. And here's the Cliffs of Moher. As you can see there, beautiful cliffs on the west of Ireland, about an hour from my home. Stunning location, like Asturias, beautiful, just like here, but really sustainable. And they are really committed to being part of this, what they call UNESCO Global Geopark, part of this amazing landscape that's really unique in the west of Ireland. And they're committed to that whole sustainability ethos and ecotourism for a long time now. This is not just overnight. This is not just yesterday. It's for a decade or more. So these are really, truly sustainable examples in the tourism field. And then finally, just some more examples to show you. And this is within fashion again. Remember, we talked about fashion and Nike being one of the big sweatshops that has, been a very, what they call a dirty business, like energy, not sustainable, not ethical. And look at these examples of Good on You and the Good Trade and the People Tree and many others that are all about sustainable fashion, or indeed slow fashion, as I love to call it. It's slow fashion. This is not about fast fashion or super fast fashion. It's about slow fashion. It's about, as they say, made from quality, timeless, local, specific styles, made to order. It's about making it last, buying less, and enjoying it and loving it for longer. That's a really important, I think, message for all of us into the future. So in conclusion, it's about a really new way of thinking, this sustainability movement. It's about understanding that marketing has a real role to play, but not for commercial purposes alone anymore. It's not about just doing good in terms of or doing well in terms of profit, but actually doing good in terms of making the world a better place. It's about creating value for 3 different stakeholders. Themselves, because they have an economic responsibility to their employees and their shareholders, but also to the consumer and to society as a whole. So doing well while also doing good is something that we should all be striving for. But we as consumers must have a part to play. It's not all on the company. It's about us as consumers, that this is about responsibility being shared by all, right? So this idea of responsible, sustainable marketing consumption, they're interdependent. And that's what gives benefits for both consumers and firms. Ultimately, we cannot get away from sustainability. It is here for the future. It's the only way forward. And it's the only thing that will help us through these really difficult, uncertain, precarious times. We're all in it together, and we've got to act now. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed that presentation. Thank you.